Let's just take a look at a few of the other workflows that may be here. We have some Notion connectivity. We actually have an OpenClaw agent that works to build particular creative writings from the CEO's various comments across various platforms, Slack and meetings and such, and then pulls out the most interesting data and then sends it out to Notion for our creative writers to connect to. This is a almost closed loop. Open loop, you're dealing with the data, querying the data, using the data. Closed loop, you're taking actions on it. So AI is taking action, maybe improving itself as it goes. The problem with a closed loop is you need to work your way to it. You need a human in the loop to make sure that everything's working like it should work. And then once that you see that everything is working well, you could maybe remove the human from the loop. That human doesn't have to be the one that gates it to be published or actioned. But then you still need a human to review that and make sure AI is not making any mistakes that need to be refined. But it's a process. And this is actually working with an OpenClaw agent. And we'll talk more about that at another time. But I do want to take a moment also to tell you about the Slack implementation, because Slack is messy. Just like Teams chats can be quite messy. You've got everything being pumped in there. You've got logs. You've got all kinds of chatter that you don't think about. Maybe it's just social chatter in some channels. Not all channels are created equal, and a lot of that data you don't want to put in your vector database. The more data you put that's noise, the less effective it's going to be. So this particularly, also a lot of channels maybe aren't used. You don't notice it when you're a big company and you have a lot of channels. This company had over 1,000 channels, but a lot of them hadn't been used in months. And so we were actually able to use the classifier to go out, classify all these channels first to make sure that the channels were the kind of data that we want to have in our vector database. If this is a bunch of PII, if this is a bunch of chat, if this is a bunch of logs, it doesn't belong in our vector database, and it's marked accordingly. But the other thing it helped us do is identify all the channels that were not being used, and then we were able to go in with this guy and disable them, to go ahead and archive them. So it cleaned up their Slack immensely in the same process. And then at the same time now we run these Slack ingestions. It pulls those important messages from the important channels and puts them into company memory. So this isn't straightforward. You can't just connect Slack and say, hey, go. It does take a process for this to happen in an orderly way that makes the data productive and useful for your AI brain. And I believe that's most of what I have to show here for you. There are also, the CRM that they have is custom. It is not a publicly available CRM. So the way for us to get data from that is through SQL queries. So we actually go out and we find, I found the right queries to pull the right data for how the company uses that data, whether it's querying the performance of technicians or the revenue from their customers or the performance of their employees. So we actually have an array of them in here, and actually let's use a different one here. So this actually circles through an array of queries. I've got over 20 queries available through an array of retrievals like this. And the way that you see this, that kind of looks like a DNA, is because that database is a very busy database. And what we don't want to do, even though it's a replica, is weigh it down with massive queries. So what we do is we make sure that when AI asks for data from that database, it can only make one query at a time. It can make 3 queries in here, for example, but it might use this one, and this one, and it won't run them all 3 at the same time. And then they're all clamped so that they're not too big. So it's not going out there and asking, give me 3 years of data on this massive query that ends up bogging down the server. This is what gives that connectivity into the company CRM. But this could be HubSpot, this could be Salesforce, it could be any CRM that we connect to. That's the great thing about N8N, is it has hundreds of connectors. It probably already has a connector to connect into your data source ready to go. And even if it doesn't, it's pretty easy for me to make a custom connection for about anything. As long as it has an API or a database, one of the two, then we can probably get the data from it and then make it available to AI and or action on it. And the other great thing about this is N8N, the copy that we're using here, for example, is self-hosted. We own the data, we own the workflows, and there's no cost. It's not costing us anything other than the hosting costs. Even if we do 100,000 executions of workflows in 1 month, it costs us really no more than it would if we did 100. So that's pretty powerful as well, and valuable to the way the company does business. Imagine employees can go into that chat, new employees. They don't have to go bother someone with, hey, who do I ask about this? Or what does this department do? Or how does this process work? Or where is this SOP? Or, what were my action items from the meeting last week? Or what happened in the meeting I missed? The list goes on. There's so much value to making your company data queryable, and that's what we've done here. That's what I did in the first month and a half, along with other items. This wasn't my only action item, but as you see, the complete system together is something that I think most companies would value. And that's it for N8N and the chat integrations, and hopefully that was insightful for you. And we'll see you again in a future video about some other cool stuff I'm doing.